Snow fell gently outside the restaurant window, covering the city in a quiet white silence. Inside, warm golden lights glowed, laughter filled the air, and families gathered around tables, celebrating Christmas Eve together. But at one table near the corner window sat a man completely alone. Daniel Hayes, a man worth over $600 million. CEO of one of the most powerful tech companies in America. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit. His watch alone could buy a small house. His phone buzzed constantly with messages from executives, investors, and assistants. But none of those messages said what he truly wanted to hear. "Merry Christmas, Dad." He stared at his untouched dinner. A perfectly cooked steak. Still hot. Still perfect. Still meaningless. He glanced around the room. Couples smiling. Parents laughing. Children opening small gift boxes early, unable to wait. Daniel looked down again. He hadn't spoken to his daughter in 3 years. Not since the divorce. Not since she chose to stay with her mother. Not since she told him, "You chose your company over me." At the time, he had told himself it was necessary. He was building an empire. He was securing their future. But tonight, that empire felt colder than the snow outside. He picked up his glass of water, his hand steady but heavy. Then suddenly, the restaurant door opened. Cold air rushed in, and with it came 3 figures. A woman and 2 little girls. The girls were twins, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Their coats were thin, their shoes slightly worn, their cheeks red from the cold. The woman looked tired, not weak, just tired in a way only life can make someone. She spoke quietly to the hostess. Daniel wasn't trying to listen, but he heard enough. "I know you're full," she said gently. "I'm not asking for much. Just somewhere warm for them to sit for a little while." The hostess hesitated. "It's Christmas Eve. Every table is reserved." The twins held their mother's hands tighter. Daniel felt something shift inside him. A memory. His daughter at that age. Holding his hand. Trusting him completely. Without thinking, Daniel stood up. He walked toward the hostess. "You can give them my table." The hostess looked confused. "Sir, are you sure?" Daniel nodded. "Yes." The woman immediately shook her head. "No, sir, I can't take your table." Daniel smiled gently. "You're not taking it. I was just leaving." It wasn't true, but he said it anyway. The twins looked up at him, their eyes wide. One of them whispered, "Mom, he looks like Santa, without the beard." Daniel laughed softly. For the first time that night, he gestured toward the table. "Please." They sat down. Daniel began to walk away, but one of the twins called out, "Mister?" He turned. "Thank you." 2 simple words, but they hit harder than any business deal he'd ever closed. He nodded. "You're welcome." He walked toward the exit, but he didn't leave. He stood near the window, watching quietly. He saw the girls' faces light up when the waitress brought bread. He saw their mother smile, not the polite smile people give strangers, but the real one, the kind that comes from relief. The waitress came to Daniel. "Sir, your car is waiting." Daniel looked at the table again. The twins were laughing now, laughing freely, carelessly, the way children should. He shook his head. "Tell him to wait." Minutes passed. Then something unexpected happened. One of the twins stood up and walked toward him again. She held something in her hand, a small Christmas card. She handed it to him. "It's for you." Daniel looked surprised. "For me?" She nodded. He opened it. Inside was a simple drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands. And beside them, a 4th figure. Him. Above it were written the words, in uneven child handwriting. "No one should be alone on Christmas." Daniel felt his throat tighten. He couldn't speak. He looked at the girl. "Why did you draw this?" She smiled. "Because you looked lonely." No one had ever said that to him. Not his employees. Not his investors. Not his partners. But this little girl saw it instantly. He swallowed hard. And then he made a decision. One that no board of directors would ever vote on. He walked back to the table. "May I join you?" The mother looked surprised. Then she nodded. "Of course." He sat down. For the next hour, they talked. Not about money. Not about business. about life. He learned her name was Elena. She was a nurse. She worked double shifts. Her husband had passed away 2 years ago. Christmas had been hard ever since. Not because she couldn't buy gifts, but because she couldn't replace a father. Daniel listened, really listened. For the first time in years, he wasn't the CEO. He was just a man. When dinner ended, Daniel quietly paid the bill. All of it. Elena tried to protest. He shook his head. Tonight, you gave me something more valuable. She didn't understand, but she smiled anyway. As they stood to leave, one of the twins hugged him. Unexpected. Pure. Real. And in that moment, Daniel realized something. All the money in the world could buy comfort, but it could not buy this. Connection, warmth, belonging. As they walked out into the snowy night, Daniel stood still for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone. He stared at a number he hadn't called in 3 years. His daughter's number. His thumb hovered. Fear, regret, hope. Then he'd press call. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then, hello. Her voice. Older, but still hers. Daniel's voice broke. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. There was silence. Then softly, Merry Christmas, Dad. Snow continued to fall, but for the first time in years, Daniel Hayes wasn't alone, because sometimes it takes losing everything to remember what matters most. And sometimes a simple act of kindness can bring you back home.